During the panel. This is called From Followers to Owners, Web3 and the Future of Fan Engagement in the Creator Economy. It will be moderated by Julia Momblat with Charlotte, Caleb, Domino, and Andrea Berry. So give them a huge round of applause. Welcome them up for the final panel of the day. Enjoy, enjoy.
1-1. Hey, everyone. Thank you for staying. Since it's the last panel, before the fun part begins, we appreciate that. Well, before we start, I really want to say big thank you to the organization of the event. Pretty cool that they gathered all of us for these 3 days in a very professional setup. Thank you. So we are here to discuss a very interesting topic, which is how blockchain change the way the creative economy works. What is new there? What is actually changing the space? How do fans become co-creators? How do artists become more free? And what is blockchain there to give, to us? So I would rather, I'm a very practical person, so I would rather talk about real life experiences. And let's start with a brief introduction from all of you guys. Domino, you are the gentleman on the stage. So
yeah.
You better start first.
Yeah, my name is Domino. I'm a music artist, multidisciplinary. I focus on creating albums and songs with visual art that goes along with it, from film to dance, poetry, painting, photography, to build worlds. And that's about it.
Cool. I'm Charlotte, and I am an art music industry professional. Kind of started in artist management. I've managed artists from major label acts to independent. My background was law. I've also worked in viral video for a while, and most recently worked at a record label that was acquired by Sony. And now me and one of the artists that I manage, Tala, are co-founders of 11, which is a platform that is incorporating Web3 to get artists paid.
Cool. Thank you.
Sorry. No, that's okay. My name is Andrea Berry. I'm head of business development at Data Labs. We are a layer 1 blockchain company with a proof of stake model. We originally started as a video streaming platform competitive to Twitch, and we realized the pains of video in this space and that decentralization was a good solution. So this was about a few years ago, I would say probably around 2018, we decided to build our own layer 1, and we focus on media and entertainment use cases. And I would say, while we work with native Web3 companies, our focus really is to help Web2 and traditional companies lean into Web3.
Yeah, cool. Thank you. I will share a few words about my background. I spent 6 years in VC, investing in Web2. Then we moved to blockchain 2015, investing in Bitfury, which is the company that pioneered Bitcoin mining. And then joined another VC fund. And apart from investing in blockchain, we also have a side gig, which is called Liquid Access. We build blockchain-based solutions for brands and their loyalty programs. So kind of we invest and build, especially now I think it's a cool thing to understand from the perspective from both sides. So I would rather, Andrea, you shared a few thoughts about, shared a few insights about your experience, but what about you, Domino? What about, where are you at the Web3 area? I mean, what's your journey, what's your story?
Yeah, I started minting in early 2021. I was mainly doing visual art because at that time, music wasn't at the forefront at all. There was just a few artists, there was no platforms. So I was kind of leading people to the music through my visual art. And in October of 2021, I dropped my album, Presessence Volume 1. As NFTs with a custom contract, we were able to ship all 7 songs in one transaction, which was beautiful. It led to a collaboration with Rolling Stone and a bunch of other incredible, amazing things. And now I'm working on Volume 2, the follow-up of that album. which is coming with everything I possibly can make, just to, like I said earlier, bring people into a world and explore kind of human emotion in this digital realm. So I'm feeling excited. Obviously, there's a bear market, as we say, and the sentiment has changed quite a bit. But I'm still seeing artists empowered every single day, and that's what's like really, really exciting to me.
Yeah, thank you. Charlotte, what's happening in the music industry? What's the latest Web3 developments there? Share the overview with us.
I think that there are a bunch of different verticals that you can look at. There's like ticketing and addressing like issues with bots, which I think it's difficult because companies like Ticketmaster have such a big stranglehold. So how that will evolve, we'll see. You'll see like the top end of the spectrum, which is like we've just seen Snoop Dogg's just issued a passport with his world tour, which I think going from like the overhyped kind of like stuff from last couple of years, that actually is really interesting, and I find that really interesting of getting like behind the scenes access of artists that maybe haven't been so forthcoming with that stuff before. And then you're seeing like right at the bottom of the end of the spectrum is just like artists just like at the very beginning of their journey, just experimenting and playing around with it. And I think that what we're seeing now really is people testing and seeing what their fans actually want, and really taking the time to really understand the fans' perspective and what they need and want from artists. And I think that was maybe missing a year ago. So I think it's like much more thoughtful, I would like to see like more artists just feeling confident to start using the technology, and I think that's like where we're going to go next.
Well, actually, I have a question. So we talk about co-creation and giving more tools to fans to kind of cooperate with an artist. But what does it mean, and how does it actually work? Can you actually give your artistic vision to your fans? I mean, it's a bit scary, right?
I think that like you're seeing with like the Cooper records and the Daniel Allen thing, where they've raised funds in an artist as like the artist as a business, and there are lots of different like complicated mechanics behind that, because obviously he's a person, not a company, and like separating a person, the artist and the integrity of the artist from like being investable are quite complicated things, because what an artist is today, like they most certainly will not be in 10 years time. They're just different, they just evolve so much. I think like what we're seeing in the space is there's really great opportunity for people to invest in catalog, and we've seen a lot of big funds investing in catalog, and it's become much more accessible and easier to invest in artist catalog. But there's also been quite a lot of like scammy kind of approaches to that, where someone's got like a credit on a Rihanna song and they say you can get shares in a Rihanna song, when it's like you've got like 1% share in a Rihanna song. So I think like that is going to evolve. But what I do see being really cool in terms of the co-ownership is like for music artists traditionally, one of the biggest things that you outlay on is like the visual to go along with the music. And so like creating you would make a song, and then you end up spending like actually way more budget on making a credible music video than you did actually on making the song, and it would be really, really costly and labor intensive. But actually like we can now maybe do something where it's a bit more collaborative, where music artists are working with visual artists and they co-own the product, the end product, and then it's much more of a shared ownership piece rather than the artist just paying out all the time for all these different collaborators. So that's kind of interesting for me.
Yeah, Domino, what do you have your opinion about that as an artist? How do you feel about ownership of your piece, of an artistic piece?
Yeah. I've been an independent artist for the last decade and remain that, and that's a really big focus of mine. So ownership is everything to me. And like you were saying, like the collaboration aspect unlocks so much, because as you're building a collector base, it shows a kind of proof of just proof that you can move in this space in a way that will provide funding and income. And I think that that allows us to reach out to people in new collaborative ways, whereas before I would have to come with a huge fund already. I can approach artists, I can approach music video directors and videographers and dancers and things and be like, look, this is what we've done, this is my track record, this is what I think this will do, here's an agreed percentage split, and then we get to create freely and openly, which is amazing, and then move that work with whatever it is and have those splits be open and seen transparently on the blockchain, and creates this amazing collaborative art renaissance, and that's what I'm really, really excited about.
Yeah, but it's mostly about partnerships though, but what about your fans? Do you have any tools that you offer them so that they can actually influence your work or become a part of the work?
Yeah,
Any examples?
Yeah. I think that with fan and artist interaction, there's always been something of a wall. There's always this like untouchable celebrity, especially with artistry and music artists. So I think that this allows the ability to not only be a fan or a super fan, but a collector. And if, like myself, I give opportunities for artists or for fans to engage with me in a way that is more personal, with token-gated chats, token-gated shows and streams. And in those chats, I'm allowing them the ability to vote on what might come out or how it might come out, or give them roles in the rollout that before that was never a conversation, which was nerve-wracking at first.
Yeah, but then it's really interesting because all this technology, it's like actually we're not doing anything new. Like that used to be street teams. Like in the 90s, it would be people that you'd get your mates and you'd send them out flyering or like stickering or spray painting and doing all of that kind of stuff. But it's just like so much now is in the digital space. And so it's like these are just like your street teams. So it's not like when it's nothing we're doing is like, oh my God, like this has never been done before. And that's like reassuring because it's like human behavior is human behavior. We do the same things over and over again. It's just new technology supporting it. And so like you've got your street team now, but they're just like maybe people that you might never meet or whatever, or you know, all of that kind of stuff. But they're just as valid just because they're digital. And that's kind of cool.
100%. And as someone who is constantly trying to grow and build my team, to have the fans be a part of that team is unexplainable.
Andrea, I didn't forget about you.
Okay.
It's just so both of them are in the music
So
industry, and we
interesting.
wanted to tap into that first. Tell us about your industry, your space, entertainment, media, video.
Yeah,
Into
a lot
so many
happening.
things.
And as
Tell us.
a layer one, there's all these different types of projects happening, but I'll share a couple examples to come to mind that are on opposite ends of the spectrum. So, you know, I mentioned that we're helping companies lean into Web3, but we also work with native ones. And I've surprisingly found, I've been in this space officially for a year and a few months. I thought it would be much more technical to start with, and I found we have a NFT marketplace called thetadrop.com, and it's actually through NFTs that we can help these companies adopt. So one example is our customer is Fremantle. They are owned by Bertelsmann and their production company. They have shows that I'm sure you would recognize, like American Idol and The Price is Right. And so American Idol, we were able to do a NFT campaign or project where the fans and the audience at home could buy the NFT and like baseball cards, sell, trade, and buy them week by week, and you would win prizes. And then at the end, I think it was like a trip to the final taping if you won. And so it was very interesting and exciting for Fremantle, a traditional production company, because for the first time, they were able to have a direct relationship with the audience at home. You know, not all these layers of CBS or Fox and who they're the ones running social, but even if they ran social, are you really having a direct relationship with your audience? You're completely dependent on those algorithms and the molds that those systems have. So that was really interesting, and that's a great example of like a traditional company kind of putting their toe in the water and benefiting from it beyond revenue. It's like that abstract revenue of engagement. And then on the other side of the spectrum, We have a Web3 native company, Toonstar, their Web3 animation studio. It's interesting, they're ex-Warner Brother executives, so they understand the studio system and all of the pains of it. And they recently launched a show, kind of like South Park-esque, with Hollywood stars, that is about space junk. And it's called Space Junk. It's about the junk that's really in space, and it's about the trash collectors in space fixing this problem. So that, they release episodes every few weeks. You can watch them at home for free. But to access the community and the fan club, you have to buy into the NFTs. And they're a very low price point. If I'm not mistaken, it was $20. And you got essentially a character. They use AI to help you develop the backstory of the character. It's like fan fiction that they're allowing in the community. And then there's all of these interactions that are happening on chain of engagement and voting, and basically, to overgeneralize it a little bit, you develop these characters that then have a chance to be in the main show, and they incorporate the fan fiction in real time. So participatory storytelling in a very interesting way that a lot of studios get freaked out about, but Toonstar is in complete control over what's included and not, and AI helps the characters match the format and aesthetic of the main storyline, which is really interesting. And they'll take it to, once the show wraps, they will go and pitch it to all the streaming services. But the leverage and the tables have turned because they're no longer pitching this idea and trying to get a small room of people to believe in it. They have an audience, they have an ROI that's already been proven, an engaged community that now they have more power to change that dynamics that's so desperately needed on the streaming space. So I'll pause there. But those are like two examples that I really want to advocate in this space of people doing something very tangible, real, and to the general public. It's not just for the Web3 and NFT fanatics.
Okay, yeah, sounds interesting. I was always, curious about, you probably know more than I do about Netflix. When you watch the series and they do not film it before, they see the reaction. That's how they decide what's going to happen with the story. So what's going to happen next with that kind of an attitude, right? So now it's...
Yeah, there's so much. There's this concept that we have the patent for NFT DRM, which is digital rights management. And DRM is nothing new. It's protecting your IP, software, music, image, anything. But now when you add an NFT security layer, there's no password sharing. That's possible. But you're allowing someone like Netflix to have that direct relationship with the fan, and they're not strict by or withheld to fit a format of revenue of just subscription and just pricing tiers that are really boring. Now they have to go back to ads now, which is crazy to me. This innovative company is copying what everyone else is doing instead of using maybe NFTs to create memberships over subscriptions. So participatory storytelling, real-time interaction, but if they can do that through the means of a membership via an NFT.
Cool. Well, speaking about monetization, let's speak about money. What blockchain brings to the table now for artists? What are the new tools that you might use to monetize your fan base?
Yeah, I'm really big on not necessarily monetizing my fan base, but monetizing every part of the
Sorry,
work.
I'm from a VC. You see, my VC past is talking.
No.
My apologies.
No, it's, I think verbiage is more important than ever. And I focus very much so on monetizing every part of the process. So what used to be just an Instagram promo or a trailer or a poster or a movie poster or an album cover is now, instead of content, is an art piece. And I think that that's very, very important so that the promo material can fund the bigger picture and the main thing being promoted. That way it takes pressure away from that main drop, and it builds every single time and allows people to collect every aspect. And I think that's really important, to give people different tiers of options, from one-on-ones that might be higher priced of the actual art to open editions to a number of editions or burn mechanisms, etc., to get people more involved. And I think through that process, the fan base gets to get in on it at a new level, at a super fan level, as well as have the ability to sell those pieces if they want to, for them to make a percentage, and we retain our royalties, which is incredibly important. And yeah, I think that process is where the monetizing comes in.
Charlotte, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I
What do
agree
you
in
recommend?
terms of like I was saying before, like we would spend like 10 grand on a music video and then we go and stick it up on YouTube for free and like get like £4 for it. Like, why? And like if you're an artist that has a fan base in, I mean that's us as, you know, a British artist with a British audience, largely an American. If you're an artist in India with a largely Indian audience, your like ad rates are like non-existent. So basically it's just totally like stacked against you. It makes no sense. So for me it's like, okay, how do we break this music video down into like the piece of art that it is? Like it's really beautiful and we spent like a shit ton of money and a load of like arguably more time on the video than we did on the bloody song in the first place. So why are we giving it away for free? So it's doing that kind of stuff. And then it's also, for me it's like, and in terms of what we're building with 11 is like we're trying to encourage artists to like really focus in on like these micro communities, these super fan communities that are really deeply involved and invested, and then really you as an artist really understanding your fan base and understanding what they want and being able to supply that. So for me, like Tala, she's a producer, she's very technical, and so for her, like her fan base tend to be like more technical people. So her teaching production or giving like, you know, away some of her like special sauce on the production, like that's really valuable to people, whereas you know different artists will have different fan bases that want different things. And so like that to me is like they're two kind of sides of the you know same coin. It's like premium experiences and like being more thoughtful about what we're giving artists. I think that like over the last like 10 years, we got really into the habit of like, oh, you drop a single, then you drop another single, then you drop the album, and then you drop another single. And you're like, oh my God, so boring. And when you're applying for like funding now, I was having a conversation earlier today, and it's like whenever, even like when you're applying for like government funding, they still encourage you to like hit like certain like social media metrics, and all these metrics are so like outdated because they're meaningless. Like that you're applying for funding for like 10 grand and they want to see you like increase your followers by like 7 million. And you're like, it's just not realistic. It doesn't make any sense. Like it's just not where audiences are. So it's just trying to meet audiences where they are. And to the point when we were just talking earlier is like, if you've got that super fan community, they're going to spend more money and they're not going to leave because they're so invested. Like these super niche communities are so heavily glued to you and so invested in your process that as long as you don't take the piss, you can like keep monetizing and keep, because it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and that's what it's about. Everyone's winning. Sorry, ran over.
No. I was just actually had the same question about your platform. How does it work? So you kind of you created something new. It works like an accelerator for artists. What do you offer for these new people that try to kind of conquer this stage? And what is their reaction to Web3? Are they tech savvy at all?
No. So what we found was we, as like me and Tala, we have always kind of been like dabbling in like little bits of tech. Like when we first got signed to Colombia, we wanted to issue like a Tala coin. This was like back in 2015 or 2014, and Colombia were like, no, absolutely not. And then you know we've dabbled over the years, and then we just got more and more. Like the established music industry is what it is and it works for some people, and like I'm not here to like overthrow Sony or Universal like or Tencent or whatever, but like I just think there's this middle class of artists that could be benefiting from this tech. And so when we started digging into it, we realized that like, whoa, this is a full-time job just figuring all this shit out, and like who has time for that? And secondly, like it was just really scary for artists and their teams. And like as we've been going to conferences and stuff, like record labels are like, you know, even independent record labels are like, we love all this tech and we can see the opportunity. We see what like Steve Aoki's doing, sounds fucking amazing, but like how do we get started? And so that was for us like 11, it was like trying to like all of these platforms, like you were having to like set up a Discord, and then you go over here to like mint your NFT, and then you were going over here to all these different things. So we were like, okay, how can we just take the simplest form of all of these things that we think are really useful, and put them all in one place. It's really accessible. The UI UX is really, really user-friendly because artists, we have to understand it. We don't have a tech background. And that was that's what 11 is. It's us like one by one onboarding this middle class of artists to start utilizing and playing with the tech and finding it fun instead of scary. So that's 11.
Can you specify a few names of artists that you work with now?
Okay, so Tala is the artist who's also my co-founder. We are working with, we're talking to Girly, who's like a pop punk artist. We are talking to an artist kind of like yourself, actually, a guy called Lunakai, who's like, he's a photographer, he's a videographer, he's a producer, like it's the whole shebang, and like Instagram just doesn't cut it when you're trying to like communicate like the plethora of like everything that you are. And so yeah, artists like that. Oh my god, I'm trying to think of everyone that we're working with. A girl called Mookie. Yeah, just like kind of like electronic-y kind of people.
Got it. I wanted to ask you if you have any questions. You can use this app that guys are using here, because I have a few more questions left, and we'll be happy to answer the questions you have, guys. So, Andrea, one of the questions is to you regarding the gamifications, virtual experiences. What does it add on to the fan experience there?
Yeah, those are like two mediums, right? And we're talking about a lot of different mediums. I think kind of brought in the question a little bit to say that, you know, I think a problem of the world that we all live in now, 'cause sadly we are not in a blockchain-full world, is that artists and fans are confined to these very strict formats, molds, and systems, algorithms that don't make sense. And in the media space, and as a media business, no two media companies are the same. They might be similar, but they're not the same. And definitely for creators, no creator is the same. And so what's very exciting in Web3 and what we're seeing transform, and I think we're all talking about, is Web3 is allowing for this blank canvas for the artists to decide, okay, I want to do video first, music here, this is how I want to charge, reward, incentivize, like all of these insane things that we all know too, we're just scratching the surface of. It's really exciting. So I think, you know, Charlotte mentioned it's mutually beneficial. Domino mentioned like he gets to decide what behavior he wants to reward or incentivize. Like that's the way, and that's the way the world should work. It's just exciting that Web3 is that blank canvas, and I think that's where Theta's focus is to allow for companies or creators to come in and build on our system, use tools that we'll develop. And I'll say one more thing too to squeeze in is like, you kind of mentioned the creator versus the business, and it's interesting because it's like hard to figure out the path there in today's world. But I think, like, I'm sure you see yourself as a business where traditionally a creator, individual creator is an individual creator, and it's hard to find your home and a place and where your fans and where you can monetize and make a livelihood. Now you're a business in Web3, and you're a media entity, and you get to operate at the level that these larger media companies are, but mostly what's exciting is they're trying to figure it out. You've already figured it out and are driving the path.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think we've heard a lot of good stuff. What are the risks? What are the issues, the scary parts? There should be, right?
For me, now, after 2.5 years of minting in Web3, I think it's not getting boxed in, not being only this Web3 artist. You know?
Yeah, I think that like I'm part of a, if anyone is interested in music and Web3, there's a community called Water and Music. You should definitely join it. And there's an artist on there called Black Dave, and like he's very, very like prolific in the Web3 music space. But he's like, I just want to sell out Madison Square Garden. And it's like, but he's got like collectors, and does really well, and he's got this really amazing group of collectors. But then transferring that into like an audience to go and play, like, you know, if you're not every artist wants to play Madison Square Garden, but if you do, it's like quite difficult to like not get boxed in by like being a Web3 artist and doing that.
Yeah. Shout out Black Dave. He's incredible. Yeah, I love he has a video series that's really amazing, where it's just talking a lot of these kind of points. And that's what's exciting to me with that issue, is that the artists are thinking about it. They're aware of this, whereas in the traditional music scene, a lot of these solutions aren't being thought about. They're just sprinting and sprinting and sprinting, trying to survive in them. And I think that our verbiage is changing. I'm seeing like on-chain music being a thing, which is interesting, instead of like my NFT song. And I think that's vital. I'm unsure if on-chain is the right word, but the push to change and adapt that verbiage, I think, will help a lot to get people on a more mass level to see it as a positive and not a scary thing that's really overwhelming. And that's exciting, yeah.
I think with music, there are always IP issues with people like minting stuff that they don't necessarily own, and like the checks that they're involved in that. That's like always a difficult thing, and like monitoring that. I think that the monolithic companies in the music industries, getting them to adapt and adjust. I think that we have a lot of like Web3 streaming platforms happening, and the collecting societies are sitting back and waiting because they basically ultimately don't necessarily think that anything's going to happen, so they're not really taking much action, but I imagine at some point there's going to be a tipping point where they suddenly start getting quite heavy-handed, and so waiting for that. And then there's also, like, with the rise of AI with music, is like, Universal getting very heavy-handed about that as well. I think like the music industry has a really bad track record when technology shifts of just like hunkering down and like creating really, really expensive lawsuits, instead of being like, this is the technology, this is happening, the genie is out of the bottle, how do we work with it? And I think that that's like always a big danger, that like music industry just gets really left behind on everything, because there are a lot of people that earn a lot of money from how things currently are. So that's one of the big dangers. And then onboarding, onboarding. Discuss. Here's another one.
Yeah, it's interesting, like when we think of the things that are scary, and we being the general public, not just everybody at the conference and Web3 friendly people, it's like the scary things that are happening in the space are AI and what will happen to the executives that I meet with at a studio or a music label. The irony is what's scaring them with this technology is, the irony is the technology is actually the solution to what they're afraid of. And that like is a very hard message to convey. And I believe that for a lot of things in this space, is that the scary things, even the scam things that are happening, which are terrible, the solution for authenticity, validation, next year in the States, there's an election cycle. This is gonna be a huge problem, but a huge opportunity to solve in this space. So I'm very interested and already exhausted thinking about it, but it's like I think that conversation should be more open rather than trying to convert people to the other side. I've found that a lot of times when the wall is up, I kind of get on their side of the fence and will agree with them on some of the things that I do think are ridiculous or scammy or skeptical, and then that will allow them to, find common ground and have a civilized conversation to hopefully just like make it palatable for them to then meet you next and then be like, you know what, that makes sense, and have a positive transition of opinion.
I think also there's just like a real danger of like what I've seen is like everything being very tech-led instead of being solutions-led, and I think that like that is what really puts people off, is like you've got to come with you've got to understand the pain points and really, really, really respect the pain points and come with a solution, and like the tech just supports that and like helps solve the problem instead of being really married to the tech and then just figuring out where it like sits in. I think in the music industry, like in particular, I've seen like people smell a rat like so fast, like they know if you're an outsider, you're not speaking the lingo, you're not in with them, and so it's like I think that's like a real big it's just like something that I'm like, oh God, it just exhausts me. Like, please don't flood the market with like products that and projects that you like haven't done your research on. Like, please just leave room for people that really get it and understand it and work with those people instead of trying to just build something for, I don't know, ego or whatever.
Yeah, I totally agree. You need to ride the wave, you know, embrace it. Well, I don't know if anyone have a question, guys, here. Probably not. So I have the last question, to be honest. And oh, you do have a question. Cool.
Okay, thank you. Is it working? Okay. I'm an artist as well, and music producer, and Web3 enthusiastic. In Web3 for a couple of, I don't know, 2 years. But like my main question about music and blockchain is about the thing that most of the people don't know unless they are music producers or musicians, which is like the ISRC codes that we generate from the distributors, and also the authorship and ownership of your song or your mix. Like, how can we keep track of this? For example, in real life example, someone just copy your song and monetize that without any governmental institution that issues this copyright.
I think there are a lot of people that are trying to solve that problem, and it's a problem that like pre-Web3, it's really, really janky. We have like all the collecting society. You have like the master side, which is like the record labels, and everyone or an artist will own their own masters, and then you have the publishing side, which maybe a publisher owns the rights, or you have a collecting society collecting on your behalf, and so there are a bunch of different. It's really, really difficult, and everyone's scratching their head. There are people that are working full time on this, of like figuring out like. Arguably, it should be easier if everything's on chain and everything gets registered on chain, then arguably like that should simplify things. But I think that there are just so many players that have to get on board with that and be like willing to adopt the technology for that to happen. So I think we're still a ways away from that personally. When you're talking about like tokenized streaming platforms and stuff, like most platforms are saying they need you to own like the master and the publishing rights yourself because they just don't want to deal with other rights holders because it's just too complicated at the moment. So it's not my area of expertise, and people are really struggling with it, I know, because I speak to them. So TBC?
I agree. It's something I worry about for sure. I think the plus side is that the blockchain is transparent. You can see when that happened. So there is some proof to go back to and be like, look, government entity, I did this, you know? But at the end of the day, there's still the need to cover your tracks and make sure those ownership properties are established as an artist. Yeah.
Sorry, I promise I'll be short. So we still need the government, right? So that's the main tricky part. Like, we need some governmental issued document that proves that the authorship is ours. Even though, like, okay, we find many solutions for streaming, for example, right? Like, if you stream, the moment that it's on the internet, okay, we can track that. But the biggest problem I see in music industry is the use in real life, you know? So that's crazy. But anyways, thank you. Thank you for responding.
Good question. I love it. I mean, from a video perspective, it's very different from music, but from a technical perspective, there's so much overlap with music streaming, music period, and video and streaming, and similar issues about rights and sharing. And used to work for a company who mastered in that, who's a partner of ours coincidentally. And it's interesting, we should talk about it more because there are groups and nonprofit groups in traditional settings in Hollywood that have identified these tagging systems that all the studios have now, that chief information officers have all adopted and agreed to start using to tag and track video distribution. And a lot of it has to do with accessibility, but there's something there. And a lot of my job is spending time with these groups and helping them implement Web3. So it's like a win for all. And I can ride the wave that they're already establishing. And like you said, if it's a solution that solves a problem, And the tech works, nobody cares how the tech works, so that's where we need to get. So I love that question because that just made that correlation for me. I appreciate it.
Guys, do you have any other question?
No,
Oh.
It's not on the blank.
No,
The
it's
screen
blank.
is blank.
No, it's not blank. Yeah, it's black.
No,
don't
this
see
screen's
any.
blank. We just have the clock.
If there is a question, yeah, let us know.
Don't be shy.
Okay. What about ownership? Oh, that's your question. Okay, thank you for that.
Well, now it's on record, so we have it.
So, yeah,
Perfect. There you go.
That's proof of concept. Okay, so well, I have maybe a pretty silly question, but allow me to ask one. Let us think about what's going to happen in 5 years. Let's go wild. Like what's happening in 5 years, especially in terms of AI. But a positive.
Oh, with AI, oh no. I don't think AI in music is as big a problem as people are thinking. I think that, sorry, just to divert, I think like everyone freaked out with like Drake, AI Drake, and and it's like, oh, what if AI replaces Drake? But it's like, no one would care about AI Drake if Drake didn't exist himself first. Like, it would just be some nerd that uploaded a thing up on, it would have no context. So it would just no one would have ever seen it. It only made the news because it was Drake, AI Drake, and Drake had to have a 15-year or how long Drake's been around career before that to be able to, it feels like forever, for that to have value. And so I think that like how I see AI is that like artists will just be able to like utilize it to like make their jobs easier. I think it's same with me building a startup. It's like I'm just using AI to just fill staff positions that I can't afford to fill yet because we're doing everything super lean. And so it's like I think for artists it's always like everything's always bootstrapped. Everything's always like on a budget, especially when you're first starting out. Even when you're not first starting out, like, there's just not a whole bunch of money in the middle class area. So I think it's just going to help artists do things in a much more efficient way. In terms of just overall the Web3 landscape, what I really hope for is that artists will be able to, I really want to see like more niche genres, niche scenes having their moment, instead of artists in terms of pleasing the algorithm, having to create loads of like vanilla content, where it's seeing artists being able to be really expressive, to cater to a really niche audience and be much more creative and finding, I want them to be comfortable. Like I see artists being much more comfortable and making money from their art instead of giving it away for free.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree for sure. I think that
Such a conformist, you are, huh?
I don't know if wallet will be the term anymore. I don't know if any of these
I
things
hope
will.
not.
I hope not either. I think that the systems of receiving these digital collectibles and things will be seamless and not so complicated, and you probably won't even know that it's happening. Similarly to the internet, we're not asking how it works, we're just using it. So I'm excited for that, for sure. We see that already now. I can't even think of any specifics, but I've had certain experiences where I've given an email and then I created a wallet and received something.
Data drop.
Beautiful.
You might have watched Metacan. We had the pop-up. I know you're involved with the Film 3 movement and crew, and we did like a pop-up film festival. And so it's like a pop-up Netflix is really what it was. It was curated library. It had award-winning films. It was amazing. And you could buy the streaming pass, and you bought it for $30. It unlocked it for 14 days, and there's all these panels that will live on forever. But yeah, you logged in, you bought it, and then you logged in with your custodial wallet, and you had access to the Netflix, and it was that easy. So like people like my parents were able to buy a pass, which
Beautiful.
I know, right? And somebody's father who was in his 70s bought one completely on his own and emailed me and was like, am I doing it wrong? Because it was so easy. And I was like, yes. Yeah, it's really cool. So more of that, I think tapping with your phone, it's organic for everyone to do that now. And at least in the States, like when you look at your Apple Wallet, each of those is an NFT use case, and NFTs would make it more secure. So I hope that in less than 5 years, we're talking about everything in our wallet. Like, what do we say? It's in our Apple Wallet. We call it what it is, a hotel room key, my membership pass, my Starbucks card. Like, just call it what it is. I hope that's the world that we're going to be living in.
Yeah, cool. Well, lovely. Thank you so much. I appreciated the conversation. If you don't have any questions, then I think this is it. Have fun. Don't forget there's the day 2.
Day 3.
Okay, bye. Bye, guys.
Well, there's
Thank you
one
so
more.
much.
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
Amazing.